Welcome back to Matters Youth Leadership, and here in studio is the youth leader Raphael Obonyo, and we are discussing, interests of the young professionals of Kenya to be included in big positions, public service positions. But how far would you say the Ministry of, Public Youth, Gender and Public Affairs has come in terms of really putting the youth in the forefront in policy making?
I think the Ministry of Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs has really tried, to advocate on the affairs of young people. Mm-hmm. But I think, and this is something that we raised with the president in his last term, we said, look, we need a youth ministry, a full ministry that focuses, an independent ministry that focuses on youth. Because if you pile youth, public service, and gender, it's so much to handle. And so for me, I think I will still encourage and advocate for establishment of an independent Ministry of Youth so that it can focus on the issues of youth. Because you look at some of the challenges that young people, one of the single most serious challenges that we face in this country is youth unemployment. Right. 7 out of every 10 jobless people are actually young people. You can pile them up with other kind of ministries. And so it is very important that we have an independent ministry that is going to solely focus on the issue of issues of young people.
All right, let's focus on the contents of that petition that was given or filed with the Office of the President and the public affairs as well. What are the contents of that petition? What does the Youth Professional Association want?
I think Youth Professional Association are doing the good a good thing, raising the concerns and the needs of young people. That look, we do not want to be silent recipients. We do not just want to sit to be at the sidelines. We are not going to be in the waiting room. We want to be involved. We want to be included in governance. We want positions, And of course, they're talking about appointments, but not just that. They're saying, look, we need our issues addressed right from the very top to the lowest level possible. Right. We want, yes, representation, but we also want our issues addressed, issues of unemployment, issues of affordable housing, issues of affordable health. We want all that addressed. And one of the ways of making sure that those issues are addressed is having young people in those positions, because we keep saying that there's nothing for us without us. We need to be at the decision-making table. And they say if you're not at the decision-making table, you're either part of the menu, and if you're part of the menu, people are going to mess up with you. So I think that's why we want a seat at the decision-making table, and the association, Young Professional Association, and other bodies, including the Youth Agenda, the Youth Congress, and other organizations are advocating for effective youth representation, effective youth participation, and that the concerns and the needs of young people that include some that I've mentioned need to be addressed.
All right, Alice, just before we wind up on this, what are your thoughts on the state of youth representation in the country currently? Because we have, a ministry that actually deals with the youth, though not independent. We have all these NGOs, we have all these, funds that are out to help youth, like the Wezo funds. But what do you think about the state of youth representation, and how can it be improved?
Thank you. The state of youth representation in this country has been improving gradually, but we still feel that there is a gap that has been created that needs to be breached. To begin with, the policies that have been put to assist the youth they have good intentions for the youth, but the problem is the implementation. The creativity and the means of implementation is something that needs to be followed keenly by the powers that be and all the stakeholders. And that is why we are pushing for the youth agenda, the youth to be included in the formulation of these policies, because we say it is the wearer of the shoe who knows where it hurts most. We cannot bring someone else from another age bracket to come and implement those policies, yet they are not hands-on with the problems that bedevil the youth. We are pushing for youth, a person within the legally mandated age of 18 to 35 years, to be included in the decision-making process, in the implementation-making process. Let the powers that be in both the public and the private sector look at the youth as people who are policy influencers, policy makers, policy influencers, and policy implementers.
All right, and it's good that you clarified that age, 18 to 35, because, you know, youth is, you know, a rather thin line in Kenya. But not everybody agrees, you know, with this position for the youth. Let's take a caller here from Machakos County. Benedict Malonza is calling in. Benedict, many thanks for calling News Center. What are your thoughts on youth representation? Benedict, if you can hear me, many thanks for calling in this morning. Your thoughts and comments, please.
Oh, thank you. I'm following the issue of this young mantle being uplifted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my comment on the issue of youth.
Go ahead.
Yeah, youth, we are not, the society is not bettering them, but we are watching their behaviors. As we are professionals who are educated, but the behavior they are portraying in the image of the society, it is acting because we have seen Muranga MCAs fighting in public. And what they are fighting for is not worthy, is only hatred. And everyone is watching this countrywide. Mm-hmm. And we are worried. Why? If we put the youth ahead, then they will destroy the society and the country at all.
All right.
We are not fighting them, but they have to be trained slowly, and they've been taught in the society of them to attain the age of ruling and managing everything in the society.
All right, many thanks. That is Benedict Malonza calling in from Machakos, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, on the same Raphael. And he says, I mean, look at some of the youth are already in some of these positions. He mentions, you know, Muranga there, and many of these leaders are seen fighting in public. I mean, in the past 2 weeks alone, I think we've seen 3 fights, you know, in county assemblies among MCAs alone. And he says that does not set a good precedence. Does he have a point there?
He has a strong point, and that's what I've been saying, that youth leadership cannot just be about age. It should be about what vision do we have for our society? Mm-hmm. What values do we espouse? You know, what principles? You know, what is the character of our leadership? Right. And so leadership should not just be about the change of face. It must also be about changing the soul of our society. And so I totally agree with him. Young people who've been given a chance truly must demonstrate to the rest of us, to the rest of the society, that, look, we are worth these positions. We are worth representing our society. We are worth leading our communities and our country. So it is not just about the face and the age. It should also be about what is it that you're going to offer. Otherwise, we are losing out on the support of many people across the country who otherwise would be really for youth leadership. All
right, let me come to you, Alice. And Benedict there, as he calls in, saying we are not fighting the youth, but we're watching their behavior, and some of what we see just isn't very encouraging. So where then do we begin as a society? Because it is not just about the political class or the youth, it's just about society as a whole embracing the notion of having youth as policy makers. But how do we begin to make that change?
We must start this discussion from the grassroots level, from the family level. That is where we gain the very first virtues and principles which make us who we are really. What we get in school is secondary. So then it goes down to the parents. What virtues have they instilled in their children? What education are we getting in schools? And at this point, I would like to laud the Education Ministry through CS Matiang'i because of the new overhaul of the curriculum, which is based on life skills, really. And we hope that through that curriculum, we are going to bring up a crop of leaders who are going to be, you know, people who espouse the good principles that have been taught in the society and what is expected of them. Again, we will be working towards the implementation of Article 10, which are the national values, values of integrity, values of accountability, good governance. All those good values then are going to be realized. But we must start this discussion from the basic level, the family level. Then we go to school, we go to the societal level. What values do we get from there?
All right. Raphael, let me come to you with your closing comments. Even as that petition lies, within the office of the president, what are your final comments?
I think one is to urge the political leadership, and especially now the Jubilee government, that to ensure inclusivity, and especially to include youth. Because by excluding young people, it is not only young people who are suffering, it is the country as a whole, because we are losing out, like I said, on the freshness, fresh ideas from these young people, the creativity of these young people, the energies of these young people. So it is very important that we consider this not just as a good thing to do, but the right thing to do if we want to move forward as a country. Look at United Arab Emirates. They have a median age of 30, but they have a minister who is in charge of youth and youth affairs, who is 22 years old.
Right.
Here in Kenya, with a median age of 19, the top leadership, if you look at the top leadership who've already been appointed, I mean, they have an average age of about 50 years. I think that is unacceptable for a country that is extremely youthful, a country where we say 80% of the population is below age 30. So we must do the right thing. Leadership must represent truly the demographic of this country. Youth must occupy those positions, not just as a constitutional requirement, but also as a promise that was made by the Jubilee government. If you look at the Jubilee manifesto, they have clearly stated that 30% of appointments, 30% of budget will go to young people. We want to see truly that being actualized. We want to make sure that we are not just making pledges to young people, that we are also making sure that we live to the promises that we make to the young people.
Staying accountable, and we'll be continuing this conversation. Many thanks. Raphael Obonyo is a youth leader. We've also been speaking to Alice Wangari, who is from the Young Professionals Association, joining us from our city center studios, bringing us